Okay, so let's try the next coding exercise. So open the leetcode.com and go to the problems tab. And if you scroll down in the search question, search for sum and hit enter. For sum, 1 second. Yeah, you will find the question number 454. There are basically two questions, for sum and for sum 2. So let's try this question, like which has acceptance at 57.2%. So it's come in the medium category. So let's open it. So let's read the question. Given four integer array. So question is for sum. So similarly, kind of we have a given a four integer array. So there are four arrays given. Num1, num2, num3, and num4, and all of same length, all of length n. So if numbers one array is of length 1, then num2, num3, num4 are of length 1. If num1 is of length 2, then all three are of length 2 only. Return the number of tuples, we need to return the number. So it means we need to return some integer. Even if you can see, we need to return some integer. We return the number of tuples ijkl such that, so that these conditions can be satisfied. So in which ijkl is less than greater than 0, greater than equal to 0, and less than equal to 1. So that is fine. So this is the main condition, like, so that num1 plus I, num2 of j plus num3 of k, num plus 4 of l is equal to 0. So if you read the question, maybe a little bit confusing, but if you see the example, it will become very easy. So, so we have four array, num1, num2, num3, num4, which is perfectly fine. And right, we need to return some number, one number of tuples. We need to return some integer, which is also perfectly fine. But how these integers is going to return on based on which condition? So we need to satisfy this condition. So the condition is like, how many, like, we need to find the number of tuples. Tuples means like the combinations of ijkl. I means some index, and I index from nums of 1, j index from nums of 2, k index from nums of 3, l index from nums of 4. So we need to pick one element from all the numbers, so that all four sum is equal to 0. So if we pick 1 minus 2 minus 1 0, like 1 minus 2 minus 1 and 0, so maybe we will get some sum. Then we can pick 1 minus 1 minus 1 0. So basically we can pick the zeroth element of first number, zeroth element of the second number, zeroth element of the third number, zeroth element of the fourth number, and let try to sum it. So basically they pick the zeroth element of the first array, zeroth element of the second array, zeroth element of the third array, and the first element of the second array, and if they submit, the return come 0. So 1 plus minus 2 minus 1, no, 1 plus minus 2 minus 1, and plus minus 1 minus 2 and plus 2 0. So we get the 0. So this condition satisfied by this combination. If we pick the zeroth element from the first array, zeroth element from the second array, zeroth element from the third array, but first element from the fourth array, then this condition is satisfied. But is there any other condition, like maybe like we can pick the first element from the first array? So first element from the first array, first element from the second array, so 2 plus minus 1 1, and the zeroth element from the third array, so minus 1 minus 1 minus 2, and the zeroth element from the fourth array. So basically like 2 plus minus 1 1, and 1 plus minus 1 0, 0 plus 0 0. So if we pick these indexes 1 1 0 0, then we are also getting the 0. And maybe let's try maybe some another. So we can pick the first element of the first array, second element of the first array, uh, sorry, index 1 from the first array, index 1 from the second array, index 1 from the third array, index 1 from the fourth array. So if we sum it, the sum will not be 0. So we can't count that. So maybe we can pick the zeroth element from the first array, zeroth element from the second array, zeroth element from the third array, zeroth element from the fourth array. Maybe if we sum it, the return sum is not 0. So we will not count that. Maybe zeroth element from the first, zeroth element from the second, but first from the third, first from the fourth. So we have to try all the possible combination basically, and we have to check all the possible combination. If the sum is 0, then we can just increase the counter equal to 1, like count. We will take some variable result or count or answer is equal to 0, and then we are going to increase that counter. But how you are going to get all the combination? So basically this is the condition. This is the array. I just explained it. So what is the brute force approach? Brute force approach is check all the combination. So first we are going to try with the brute force approach, which is very easy approach. Anyone can do, I think, because let's suppose if there is a two array, leave the four array. If there are two array, if you have to take the all combination, like I element of this 1 minus 2, 1 minus 1, 2 minus 2, 2 minus 1. So you have to run the two loop. So two loop means first loop from 0 to n, second loop from 0 to n. But if there are four arrays, so you need to run the four loops, four nested loops to get all the four combinations. All right. So basically, zero element from 0, 0, 0, 0. We pick the zeroth element from the first array and the zeroth element from the all three. Then we pick the first element of the first array and zeroth element from the all the arrays. So there could be a lot of combination. So if there are two arrays, then how we can get the all combination? We can run the two for loop. We already know. But if there are four arrays, to get the all combination, we can run the for loop. And as soon as we run the for loop, we will just check nums of 5 plus nums of 2 plus, we will all the four sum. If the sum is 0, we will just increase the counter. So let's try to do the brute force approach. So we know all of length, like all arrays are of same length. So let's calculate the length of any array because all are of same length. So now we need, and we will take some counter. 1 minute. And so n is equal to length of nums1, and we will take some count variable 0, which is our like solution. So initially it's 0. All right, because if there is a nothing combination, then we are going to return 0. Right now we have to check all the combinations. So that is the brute force approach. How you are going to check there are four arrays, so you need to run the for loop. So let's run the first loop for I in range 0 to n. So which will check all the elements from the first loop. Then we need to check the all the elements from the second loop for j in range 0 to n. Now we have to check the all the elements from the third loop for k in range 0 to n. Now we have to check the all the elements from the fourth loop for I in range, for L in range of 0 to n. All right. And as soon as we get the fourth combination, we will just check if nums1 of I, because I is from the first array, plus nums2 of j, plus nums3 of k, plus nums4 of L. If these equal to 0, then we are going to increase the counter, count plus 1, which means we found some tuple. And after all the thing, we are just going to return the count. Right? Basically, this is a very brute force approach, which has complexity of big of n ki power 4, because n could be nums of length and n could be 200. So maximum is 200 ki power 4. So let's try to run it, whether the solution is correct or not. So it is accepted on our two sample problems because this is very small array. So that's why it accepted. But is it going to accept on all the test cases? So let's try to submit it. So it is taking so much. Ideally, it should not get accepted because big of n ki power 4 is very huge. So let's wait. So only 19 test cases passed and rest got failed. Right? Because if the someone give this much big array, then it is running very huge loop, right? And that's why we are getting time limit exceed. So your time limit get exceeded. Solution is right. There is no problem with the solution because if you run in your local computer, it will take time, but you will get the answer. But in the Leetcode, they have some time limit. So time limit foundation. So whenever they want from us to optimize the solution. So this is the first approach, which is perfectly fine. So how to minimize it? Yeah. So which is perfectly fine. So one solution is like ready. We get all the four combination, but how to optimize it? Because to check the sum, we need two combination, three combination, four combination. So how to optimize it? So this solution is perfectly fine, but Leetcode is like not accepting the solution only because 19 cases like passed and more than 100 cases failed. All right. So let's think about the next approach. So what could be the next approach? All right. So let's, because this complexity big of n to power 4. So let's try the optimal solution. So it's definitely sure we need to run the for loop, because how you are going to check the elements by running the for loop only. All right. And it is also fine we need to run the for loop on all the four arrays, otherwise how you are going to pick the elements from the all arrays. But if we are going to run the for loops on all the four arrays, then again it becomes big of n to power 4, which we already implemented. So how you are going to optimize it? So the solution is we are break the for loops. Break the for loops means we run two for loops from only first two arrays, right? And then run two for loops on the remaining two arrays. Basically, we want all for sum is equal to 0. So if we run two for loops and we get all the sum combination. So let's suppose, like let me show you here. So let's suppose there are four arrays, num1, num2, num3, num4. So we can run a for loop only on the first two arrays. So basically big of n square, and store all the combinations. Store all the combination in a dictionary. As an example, so what are all the combinations? So 1 plus minus 2, we are get minus 1. So we are going to store in a dictionary. So if the sum is minus 1, we get one pair. All right. So count is 1. One value is 1. 1 means one pair. We find the one pair. Okay. The next combination is 1 minus 1, which is 0. Okay. Is 0 in the dictionary? No. So we are going to store. So if the sum is 0, then we have one pair. Fine. Then we are going to check the other element, 2 plus minus 2, which is 0. Is the 0 is there? Yes. So we are going to increase the value. So for the 0, we have two pairs. Okay. Then the next element is 2 minus 1. 2 minus 1 is 1. So 1 is there? No. So for the 1, we have the one pair. So by running the first two for loops, we get the sum of two elements. If we do run only on the first two arrays, so for the sum, if the sum is minus 1, we get one pair. If the sum is 0, we get one pair. No, if the sum is 0, we get the two pairs. And if the sum is 1, we get the one pair. That is perfectly fine. Now we are going to run the for loop on the next two arrays. All right. But in the next two arrays, what we are going to check is, so let's run the for loop on the next two arrays. So we will pick the minus 1, 0. So minus 1 and 0. Minus 1, 0 is minus 1. But as per the question, we need all the four sum is 0, right? We know the first two sum and we store somewhere in the dictionary. And the next two sum is minus 1. So to make it 0, what is required? To make it is 0, 1 is required, plus 1 is required, right? So like 0, like to make it 0, we need like plus 1. So whether 1 is exist in the hash map or not. If 1 is exist in the hash map, so it means, so this combination and there are one already combination from the first two array and there is a one combination we got. So we will sum it and we will find the remaining from the 0, how much is the remaining element, and we will find that remaining element exists in the hash map or not. If it exists in the hash map, we are going to increase the counter by its value. As an example, so in the starting count is equal to 0. So we are going to sum it minus 1 plus 0. Minus 1 plus 0 is minus 1. But we need all four sum is equal to 0. To make sum 0, we need 1 because minus 1 plus 1 is equal to 0. So if is 1 exist in the hash map? Yes, 1 exists in the hash map and its value is 1. So there is a one pair in the earlier two array. If there is a one pair and we are getting minus 1 from here and 1 from the earlier pair, so 1 plus minus 1, 0. So we are going to increase the count. Okay, so then we will pick the next element. Next element minus 1, 2. Minus 1, 2 is 1. So to make it 0, we need minus 1. Is minus 1 exist in the hash map? Yes. So we have minus 1 from the first two pair, 1 from the next two pair. So we can combine all the four pair, then it becomes 0. Then we are going to increase the count, 1 plus 1, 2, 0. Then we take the next 2 plus 0, 2. 2 plus 0, 2. So to make it 0, we need minus 2. Is minus 2 exist in the hash map? No. So there is no minus 2 in the first two element, but we are getting the 2 from the other element. So there are no such tuple exist. So we are not going to increase the count. and at the end we are going to return the count variable because we are increasing the count. So basically we are still checking all the combination but in a chunks, and we are taking some extra space because when you check the first two array, so you have to store somewhere, and how you are going to store? In the form of a dictionary only. Okay, if the sum is one, we get one pair. If the sum is two, we get two pair. If the sum is this, we get this number of pair. And for the remaining array, what we are going to do? Okay, we have sum is one. Now to make it zero, we need minus one. Instead of all combining four, we are checking the remaining element exist or not. So let's try to implement it. So n is equal to length of nums1, and we need some hash map to store it. All right, and we need some count variable which is starting in 0. So what we are going to do? For I in range of 0 to n, similarly like earlier we run for loops, now we are going to run into split into two loops so that our time complexity get reduced. For I in range 0 to n, and for j in range 0 to n, which is perfectly fine. All right, and we are going to calculate this. What we are going what we can do is, we have to store the sum. So sum is equal to, so we can, because sum is like a inbuilt variable, or we can do underscore sum. So nums1 of I plus nums2 of j, whatever the sum is, we are going to store it. The hash map of sum is equal to hash map dot get sum comma 0 plus 1, because we found one tuple, that is one pair. So that's why we are, and if we find some another pair, if the sum already exists, then we are going to increase the counter. Or you can do the like if for loop, if the sum exists, then we are going to retrieve the value and plus one. If sum doesn't exist, then we are going to store the value by one. Like anything, this is the shortcut. So we are going to store the sum. So sum is the key and the value is the counter. How many pair we found till now for the particular sum, but in the first two array only. Right. So for j in range 0 to n, so we get the sum. Sum is nums one I from the first array and j from the second array. We will get all the combination. That is perfectly fine. So now we are going to run the loop on the other two arrays. For k in range, still there are four loops, but in its different chunks. So time complexity is big of n square. For L in range of 0 to n. All right. So again we are going to calculate the sum. So we are going to calculate the sum, but sum in third array, nums 3 of k plus nums 4 of L. All right. But whatever the sum will give, now we are going to find. Let's suppose we get 1, but to make it 0, we need minus 1. So what is the remaining element which is required? So basically, if you, let's suppose a is equal to 4. To make it 0, say a plus, so 4 plus, so we need some other element, remaining element. So the sum is 0. So b is equal to 0 minus 4. All right. So the remaining element, how you are going to calculate? Remaining element is equal to 0 minus underscore sum. All right. And if remaining in hash map, if remaining already exists in the hash map, then we are going to increase the count plus value of that, like how many element it find, how many pair. So hash map, and we are going to return the count. So return count. So let's try to run. So something is spelling mistake. So let's try to submit it. So now our solution has been accepted by the lead code, even though we use a lot of memory, 63%, and we beat 40% of the people. So that is perfectly fine because many people like did in the Java C++, which is more faster than the Python, and that's why their runtime is like less than us. But solution is accepted, and which is perfectly fine. So basically, what we did in this question is first we tried the brute force approach. In the brute force approach, we tried all the combination, and we know how to try the whole combination. If there are two arrays to try the whole combination, we run two for loop. If there are four arrays, four loop, four loop. If there are three arrays, three for loop. If there are six arrays, there are six for loop, which is perfectly fine. We tried all the combination. We tried to submit the solution, but Leetcode did not accept our solution. Only 19 cases passed, 18 cases passed basically, or 19. And it said like the time limit exceeded, so you need to reduce the time complexity. And okay, they said we need to reduce the time complexity. So what we can do is we are running the for loop on two arrays. We run the for loop on the two arrays, and we will run the for loop on, because we need all the for sum is zero. So we will sum the first two element and we are going to store it. Okay, for this sum we found one pair, for this sum we found this pair, for this sum we found this pair, and then we are running the for loop on the next two arrays. If we find this sum, and what are, because we want the total sum is zero, so what is the remaining sum? Remaining sum is minus one, minus two, or whatever the sum is, we are going to find in the hash map, the wherever we store. If it is there, we are just increase the counter by the number of pairs, how many pairs we found, and at the end we are just returning the count. So which is perfectly fine. So Jerry just a little trick. It's come under the medium category. And why it's come under the medium category? Because of just this little trick. And the trick is, instead of running the for loop on the two, we need to run on the two array. So first two and the two, but using the some extra space. That's it. So that's the end of the video. You can also try this question, and thank you.